Shalom, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai. I like to give all praises to Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai. I double honors to apostles, elders, and bishops, great millstone, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect across planet Earth, pushing this truth, the spirit, and sincerity, and the truth. Yeah, I just got this article out of Russia Today. Basically, Lavrov, he is the foreign minister of Russia. He was doing an interview, I believe, with like the French publication, and he explains the difference between the war on Iran and the Ukraine conflict, and he goes into how Iran is their strategic partner, and Ukraine, was violating international law, but Russia plays a big part in biblical prophecy on both these nations, because Scripture said Russia's going to be a guard unto Iran, and the reason why they're in their conflict with Ukraine really is because they're trying to revitalize or bring back to life, that Russian, that Soviet Union, that USSR, that old red, army, the USSR, Soviet Union. Scripture said they're gonna put hooks in their jaw. So this article really goes deep into biblical prophecy as far as Russia is concerned, and all these things they're playing out. That Third World War is definitely right around the corner, along with all these other prophecies that are just coming to pass. But this is out of Russia Today. It was published a couple days ago, March 27th. Basically, Lavrov explains the difference between war on Iran and the Ukraine conflict. Tehran violated none of its international commitments, and that's heating up a lot of nations as well. That they shall hate the whore. It goes into these other nations, NATO and EU, and these other nations, BRICS nations, how they're all gonna turn against. They're gonna hate America. While Kiev trampled on them for years. The U.S.-Israeli war against Iran stands in stark contrast with the Ukraine conflict. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in a wide-ranging interview with France televisions published on Thursday. Lavrov explained that Iran had abided by its international commitments and came under attack in the midst of active talks with the U.S. on its nuclear program. So that's, that was another strike, on the U.S., in which all these other countries are going to really, hate America. In contrast, the top Russian diplomat said the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022 followed years of disregard by Kiev for its international commitments to seek Western approval, as well as Ukrainian crackdown on the rights of Russian-speaking population and hostile policies toward Moscow. But yeah, we all know, that's the hooks that the Most High, that the Lord put, in their mouths to turn them back. They're trying to reestablish, the USSR. Let me just skip down a little bit. Before we discuss the state of affairs of Ukraine, let's take a look at the developments of the Middle East. The United States and Israel launched a military operation against Iran 20 days ago. You have firmly stood by the Islamic Republic Iran, which is your ally. Why are you doing this? So everybody knows that Iran is an ally to Russia, which also coincides with the scriptures, as they will be a guard unto them. But he says our primary focus was on upholding international law, not so much on defending Iran, which is more than our ally, but our strategic partner. And they get their oil and all that from Iran, different resources, but they're using the excuse of international law and how the U.S., disregarding international law. But they are defending Iran, and they are going to continue to defend Iran. Uh, I'm not going to go into all that, but it says, second question. I've heard those remarks. However, U.S. intelligence claims you are helping Iranians identify U.S. bases as targets. Is that true? How far will Russia go in supporting Iran? Or are they going to go into the very end? Is your country supplying weapons to Iran? Do you confirm armaments transfers? Do you confirm armaments transfers? You are a incredibly capable journalist because your first impression was whether it's true that we are helping Iran. And then, without wanting me to answer your question, you went ahead and asked me how far this support would go. See, I mean, you know, where is it? They stated that Russia indeed has close relations with Iran. We have an agreement on military technical cooperation. We have supplied certain types of military equipment to Iran, but we cannot agree with accusations that we are providing Iran with intelligence. But basically, it's just going into just backing up the scriptures on how Russia is going to be a guard unto Iran, and they're going to support Iran, onto the very end, as well as prophecy of them going to war with Ukraine or putting hooks in their jaws and turning them back, trying to establish, that old Soviet Union, as the scripture says. But yeah, this is Ezekiel 38:2. It says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Yeah, the land of Magog is talking about, Russia today, and say, Thus saith Lord Power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring them forth in thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Yeah, they're modern day army, that army. And putting the hooks in thy jaws, that's them starting wars, with all those ex-USSR federated countries, like Donbass and Crimea and Ukraine. All those were once the USSR. And they started war with every last one of them to annex or to reestablish those lands. That's what it meant by putting hooks in their jaws and turning them back. Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all with them with shield and helmet. Gomer and his bands, and House of Turkamar in the North Quarters and his bands, and many people with thee. Somewhat Turkey, in Asia. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Yeah, so Russia's going to be, a guard unto Iran, those Middle Eastern countries, man. And they're going to support them unto the very end. But yeah, this is Revelation 11:14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That's about war. Woe means destruction. So the second destruction, the second world war is past. And the third world war is coming quickly, man. So yeah, it's brewing up. Some other prophecies need to come to pass. We've seen uprisings of the people. There was another protest over here statewide all throughout the country. You call it the No Kings, or everybody's gearing up protesting against Trump. And eventually, those protests are going to turn violent. There's going to be martial law. Trump already is requesting to send those troops back into these democratic states again. So as that whole martial law thing is heating up again. So we're close. Ultimately, the hour of temptation. That all that technology is in place. The RFID chip, mark of the beast technology, brain chips, Neuralink, body chips. All that technology is in place. And there's this ticker right here. It says that Trump threatens Iran with more destruction. Claims peace deal is near. Most troops say as soon as every peace and safety, that's when a sudden destruction shall come upon them. Trump threatens Iran with more destruction, then claims a peace deal is near. This guy, well, it's Nero, This is the guy. This has to be the guy, man. The U.S. has been in serious discussions with a new and more reasonable Iranian government. Donald Trump has claimed. We'll see. Let's see. So Iran is continuing to threaten retaliation by striking power-generated assets across West Asia. NATO member published today. NATO member closes airspace to U.S. planes involved in Iran war. So that goes into NATO. That goes. They shall hate the war. It says NATO member closes airspace to U.S. planes. They're NATO, so that's supposed to be U.S. allies, but they close airspace to U.S. planes involved in the Iran war. Spain has barred its skies and bases to American bombers after criticizing the Middle East campaign as illegal. So that goes, it's more prophecy, man. They shall hate the whore. And also, that's just the Most High doing his thing. This is Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. My determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. What's the fire of his jealousy? Nuclear destruction. Trump threatens Iran with more destruction. He's a proud man. You need to keep it at home, as the scriptures say. You get threatened with destruction, and claim peace deals near, man. I'm talking about going into Cuba next and all that. Keeping up unto all nations, and all peoples. This NATO member closes airspace to U.S. planes. Another live update. Israel rocks Tehran with wave of strikes while Washington insists talks continue. They're going at it, man. White House press secretary has claimed that public statements are much different than what's being communicated to us privately. Talks between the U.S. and Iran are continuing and going well, while the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt has insisted Israel continues its strikes against Iran. So they're doing their thing, man. But that's all, Most High working on the minds of these different leaders. Most High is working on that mind, man, for what? His determination to gather these nations over to the Middle East for what? That third world woe. That third woe coming quickly. It's all what the Most High is doing, man. The Most High is behind all this. Yahweh Shem Yahushai is behind all of this, man. It's happening in real time, man. These prophecies are coming to life. Why? He's gathering these nations to assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them his indignation, mine indignation for all my fierce anger, which is that nuclear destruction, man. He's going to send them over there to the Middle East and bomb them. That missile in various other parts, including America. America's going to be completely wiped out. Israel's going to be completely wiped out, but Israel's going to be, built back up again. The sons of strangers, shall build up thy walls. The elites, they're going to be the first They're going to be the first crop of slaves, man. The Lord may preserve Trump, man. He's a billionaire. No, he's an elite, you know. The fire of his jealousy, that nuclear destruction, man. Then the kingdom's going to come. And it says, for then will I turn the people to a pure language, Hebrew, man. We're going to go back to our language. We're going to go back to our nationality. We're going to go back to our customs and our ways. And all the other heathen nations are going to have to follow those ways. Just like we had to learn Christianity, we had to learn English, we had to learn, Esau's laws. They're going to have to learn our laws, man. Yahweh laws. That they may call upon me, or that they may call upon the name of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh, and serve him with one consent. And yeah, we're going to serve the Lord with one consent, man. That's the light. Right now, our people are in gross darkness, man. They don't have a light. But as soon as this, eventually all Israel will be saved after this destruction. And after, the kingdom's built up or being built, the rest of our people, the 2/3, are going to come back through the elect. And they're going to have that light. They're going to be in gross darkness, as our people currently in right now, man. They're going to serve the Lord with one consent. Everybody's going to know who Yahweh is, man. They're not going to have a problem with the Lord, being a so-called black man. They're not going to have a problem with the Most High, being a so-called black man, right? As the scriptures describe him as, right? They got no problem with that. They're going to serve the Lord with one consent with the name, and all these other nations are going to understand it, and they're going to understand the name, right? But there's Revelation 17:15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. I'm on America. The 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, the NATO, the EU, 10 horn, these shall hate the whore. They're going to hate America, right? Just like we read. NATO member closes airspace to U.S. planes. NATO is the ally to U.S. Why are they closing airspace? Closing all bases. Right here it says, Spain has barred its skies and bases to American bombers. So slowly but surely, man, it's coming in. The vision is set for a appointed time. That these NATO nations, these EU nations, they're hating the whore. They're hating America. They're distancing themselves from America. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. What's that? What's that fire? The same fire the Lord was talking about, man. The fire of his jealousy, that nuclear destruction, man. The earth shall be devoured, and not the entire planet. The earth's going to abide forever. But, all of America is going to be wiped out. The 10th part of the city shall fall, man. In different various places as well, man, around the globe. So eat her flesh and burn her. So yeah, these NATO members are going to turn on America completely. We're seeing it right now with this whole situation. But yeah, just wanted to go into this article. Russia, play a big role. The difference between the war in Iran and the Iranian conflict. But yeah, Russia's gonna, that Iranian conflict is basically the most. I just put in hooks in their jaws, and turning them back, putting that desire, for them to want to return to that USSR, the Soviet Union, and they are going to be supporting Iran. They started supporting Iran, and they're going to continue to support Iran. They're going to be a guard unto Iran. Yeah, but with that, shalom.